entertain some questions, and I would like to start with a question for you, Tim. When pharma companies are looking to incorporate patient advocate opinion, are they looking for people who have been patients or caregivers very recently? Or if someone like me, for instance, I've 10 years past my radical cystectomy. Are they looking for people with hindsight experience? Are they looking for people who are maybe more recently have gone through bladder cancer treatment and or surgery?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Most of the time companies want to know what's happening now, right? They want to know what the current experience is, because 10 years can make a large difference. But simply because your personal experience was 10 years ago doesn't mean you don't have anything to offer. Sometimes people who have become in groups like BCAN and really gotten involved are in touch with other patients. Maybe you've mentored other patients. Maybe you've been a peer support person for other patients. Maybe you've stayed active on your online community and things like that. So if you have current information about what patients are experiencing, I think that can make a real difference. Most of the time, that's the situation, is that they're looking for what's going on now. There may be some exceptions, but they would be less common, I think.
Right. Great. Thank you. That helps a lot. Karen, as you were speaking, I was wondering, was participating as a patient advocate really emotionally difficult, or maybe was it cathartic for you?
Well, certainly there were times when I was overcome with emotion, but mostly it was just a really great experience, and feeling that I could really take, my sadness and really put it somewhere and direct it somewhere that it was going to do some good.
Okay, great. Thank you. Tim, are other companies other than Pharma ever in touch with you? For instance, ostomy supply companies or manufacturers, are they looking for a patient advocate to come in and give some kind of help with product evaluation?
I love the way whoever's asking this question is thinking. I wish I could say that it's true, yes, and we have occasionally had those kinds of things happen, but it's not common. I mean, I know a person who is part of a big company that does CAT scans, and I said, have you ever talked to patients about their experience about having a CAT scan and what that was like, and ways that it could be improved? And they just had zero interest in this. And I wish that device companies, supply companies, and things like that would talk more about the patient experience, but it's a hard sell. We can't seem to get their attention. But if you know somebody in those companies, tell them they should do this, because it's important.
Yeah. Okay. And Karen, did you find that you had to do a lot of preparation before you would either go to a meeting or be part of even an online meeting to be prepared as a patient advocate?
Well, I will say that my experience with Merck, with their PR company, was that they actually prepared me. They would send me questions and topics that were going to be discussed, and really it's just communicating your perspective, and there wasn't really like any research or things like that I had to do.
Okay, that helps a lot. And Tim, I wanted to ask too, there's a question about, do you find that more men or women are willing to be volunteers or are patient advocates, or do you find that pharma companies are more interested in either a man's perspective or a woman's perspective?
No, I think it's pretty balanced. There maybe a few more women than men, but it's just an accident of who's been impacted or things like that. What's kind of interesting though is the mix not between male and female, but between the mix of patient and care partner, because I love bringing groups together that has both, because sometimes the patient experience and the care partner's experience can be quite different, and even priorities. I did an ad board with a disease that's congenital, and we had 3 or 4 people who were in their upper teens, early 20s, and their parents. And the patient perspective about one key issue was completely opposite from the parents slash caregivers perspective.
Yeah, that helps. I can understand that that could be true. Just from the stories that I've heard from other people about the difference in the care, being the patient or being the caregiver, or for that. And Tim, the last question that I have had here is, you know, how do you identify people who might be good candidates for patient advocacy? I know that we can go through BCAN by letting BCAN know about an interest in that, but are there particular characteristics or skill set that you recognize in people when they're volunteering and identifying them for a specific pharma company?
Yeah, we generally do interviews or screening interviews, and we're not trying to screen out opinions, for example, but what we are looking for are, do people have the relevant experience that helps in this particular need that we have right now? That's one thing. Number two, are people, we do it, I mean, you guys know this because you see it. There's some people who get involved in disease areas who just have ideas that are way outside the norm. I drank goat urine and it cured my cancer. There are those people. We don't want people who are so aberrant that they're not really reflective of the broader group of people. But I will say that I'm always interested in finding what I call real world patients, right? The patient who has had a real kind of experience, because it's fairly easy to find the patients who've gone to the big cancer centers, the MD Andersons and the Sloan Ketterings and things like that. And their point of view is valid and important and valuable. But what about the person who lives in Montana and travels an hour and a half away to the only oncologist who is even that close? And that oncologist may or may not know anything about their particular kind of cancer. I want to hear what their experience is as well. So we're always looking for well-rounded, broad experience that helps us understand the real life of real patients.
Great. Thank you. Thank you both for your participation tonight and for all that you brought to all of us. I know, Stephanie, you may have some additional questions, and I know you have some final poll questions for us.
We do, and we'll have time to maybe get to one of these final questions. So this question is directed at Dr. Turnham. As you mentioned, there's a stigma felt among dermatology patients worldwide concerning their diagnosis. You've now spoken to a number of patients through BCAN and do the work that you do. What is your assessment of the level of stigma concerning bladder cancer among those diagnosed in relationship to those who have colon cancer, for instance? Do you think that bladder cancer is still keeping people from seeing specialists, the urologist, when they first present with symptoms?
That's man, I don't even know how to begin to answer this question. I think denial is a big part of all of us, and we don't want to believe that something is wrong, and we are still embarrassed about anything that's in the genital area or the urinary area. I mean, all of this just kind of makes us we're a little bit prudish about this, and I think that those are barriers to people getting care when and how they should, and it's a barrier also to I think getting the support sometimes that you need. I suspect that many bladder cancer patients have friends and family members with whom they've not really been honest about the impact of bladder cancer on their lives, and what that has meant for them. I certainly know that's the case in colorectal cancer, especially if you have an ostomy or something like that. That's just something people are kind of reserved by, and because of that, you don't always get the support that you need, and you don't always seek out the help that you need. I think also, I'm sorry, you hit a soapbox here. I'll say this very quickly. I think that physicians often do not fully understand the impact of these kinds of cancers on your quality of life. And they can be dismissive. And I think cystoscopy is an example of that. Well, it's a simple procedure. You may feel some discomfort, right? And it's up to patients to advocate for themselves to say, this is a problem. I need you to pay attention to this. I need you to listen to me. But that's not easy to do, especially when your life is in the hands of the person you're pushing back against.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think that really what you're doing for your group and connecting patients to Pharma, and again, the volunteers that we've had that we try to help share what I call their lived experience, I think it's a win on both sides, because knowing that you're helping the people that might not see more than a slide with some tumor cells on it, to really understand what it's like to live with bladder cancer can be very empowering for a patient, as well as really informative for a company to really get that feeling of what exactly do we want to say having this treatment will do for you. How can we change your life for the better? That's really the most important thing. So I do want to thank you all for this program. And in the interest of time,